Welcome to The Witch's Tales, where you will be immersed in stories of mystery, magic, and drama. Prepare yourself to face unexplained mysteries, bizarre phenomena, and strange adventures that will keep you glued to your eyes. With a captivating voice, we will take you into the world of thrilling stories, where truth and legend collide, making you wonder if everything is really just fiction. Hello everyone, welcome to The Witch's Tales. I'm here to help you relax and drift off to sleep. Before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories. Also, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Now get comfortable, settle in, and let's dive into the story. Haunting of the Tunnel and the Terrifying Escape. The air was thick with tension. The faint echo of our footsteps, the only sound in the tunnel, as we made our way deeper into the darkness. It had started as a simple exploration. Amber, Jake, Mike, and I were just looking for adventure. We had heard rumors about the abandoned mine stories of strange symbols and forgotten tunnels, and we decided to check it out. None of us had anticipated what we would find down there. At first, the tunnel was nothing more than a narrow, damp passageway. Our flashlights illuminated the jagged walls as we walked, the beam bouncing off rocks and old remnants of the mine. But then something shifted. The atmosphere seemed to change, becoming heavier, thicker with each step. We exchanged uneasy glances, but it was too late to turn back now. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. Amber let out a startled gasp, and Jake cursed under his breath as his flashlight went out completely. I struggled to get mine working, but it too sputtered out, plunging us into darkness. Panic set in immediately. We had only the faintest light from our phones, but it did little to calm the rising fear. "What's that sound?" Mike whispered, his voice barely audible. It was a faint scraping, almost like claws dragging along the stone. I tried to convince myself it was nothing more than the wind or some animal in the distance, but the sound was unnerving. It grew louder, closer. There was something else down here with us. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing blindly for whoever was closest to me. Amber screamed, and we stumbled, pushing past each other in a mad rush for the exit. Our hands scraped against the rough walls as we made our way through the darkness. The scraping sound grew louder, more frantic, and then to my horror, I heard something wet, slithering toward us. I felt something brush against my leg, and I let out a strangled scream. My heart hammered in my chest as I flailed out blindly, my fist connecting with something solid yet soft. A high-pitched shriek echoed through the tunnel, and then, as quickly as it had started, the sound retreated, scuttling away like something had fled in the dark. "This way," Mike's voice called from ahead. I ran toward him, praying he actually knew where we were going. We burst out of the tunnel and into the elevator chamber, gasping for breath. Jake slammed the gate shut behind us, and Mike frantically jabbed at the ascent button. The elevator groaned in protest as it started to rise. As we ascended, I dared to glance down through the gaps in the metal. The darkness below us was alive with movement. Eyes glowing faintly in the dim light followed our ascent. There were creatures more than one, with jerky, unnatural movements. I could hear their claws scraping against the metal as they climbed after us, faster than we could ascend. "Please go faster," Amber whimpered from behind me, her voice trembling with fear. The elevator seemed to crawl upwards, slower than ever. I could hear the creatures, chittering, growing louder as they climbed, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Just when I thought they were about to reach us, the elevator gave one final groan and burst into the daylight. We tumbled out of the elevator, gasping and shaking. Mike immediately ran to help us seal it off, piling debris in front of the shaft to block the way. We stood there for a long moment, staring at each other, wide-eyed and speechless, too shocked to move. The only sound was the faint wind rustling through the trees, but it was a welcome contrast to the fear that had gripped us in the tunnel. What the hell were those things? Amber asked, her voice barely a whisper. None of us had an answer. We gathered our things in silence and headed back to the car, not a word exchanged between us. The world around us seemed too quiet, too still, as if the nightmare we had just escaped was still lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike again. It had been a long, exhausting day, and I just wanted to get home. I had visited my grandmother, who had been sick for some time, and was now making the long drive back to my place. It was past midnight, the road was deserted, and the only sound was the hum of my car engine. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating nothing but the endless stretch of road ahead. I had been driving for hours, my mind starting to wander, when I noticed the headlights behind me. At first I thought it was just another car on the road, maybe someone heading in the same direction. But as the miles ticked by, I realized it wasn't just any car. It was following me. I tried to push the thought out of my mind, telling myself it was just a coincidence. But the car didn't stop. It kept pace with me, no matter how fast I went. I pressed down on the accelerator, trying to put distance between us, but the car was still there, tailing me relentlessly. My heart rate picked up as a knot of unease formed in my stomach. By the time I reached the gas station, my hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. I pulled in tires, screeching as I slid into the parking lot. The car behind me didn't follow. Instead, it slowed as it passed, and I finally caught a glimpse of it. It was old, possibly from the 70s. The once black paint was faded to a dull grey. The driver's face was hidden in shadow. As it passed, I felt a chill run down my spine. What had been following me, I didn't want to stay outside for long, so I went inside the gas station, hoping to shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The old man behind the counter looked up from his newspaper, giving me a curious glance. "Everything all right, miss?" he asked, his voice gruff but kind. I tried to smile, though I could feel my nerves on edge. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just—" There was a car following me. His expression changed. In an instant, his gaze turning serious. "What kind of car?" I hesitated, then said. "It was an old one, black or dark grey." Couldn't see the driver clearly. The old man's face tightened. "You be careful out there," he warned. "We've had incidents here before. People disappearing following a car just like that one." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, incidents?" The old man lowered his voice, glancing around before speaking again. "People traveling at night. They've been followed by strange cars. Some make it to town, others—" He trailed off, not needing to finish the sentence. The implication was clear. I shivered, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. "Have you called the police?" The old man chuckled bitterly. "They've investigated, but they never find anything. People think it's just a story to scare the kids, but I've seen enough to know better." I glanced nervously at the window, half expecting to see those headlights again. The old man continued, "Stay here if you can. If not, drive fast to the nearest town. Don't try to lose it on these back roads. That's where people tend to disappear." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I nodded, feeling my throat tighten. I think I'll wait here for a while. I sat down, trying to calm my racing heart, the minutes dragging on like hours. I couldn't help but wonder what had been following me and how many others had encountered the same fate. Alex had been planning this solo camping trip for weeks, wanting to escape the noise of the world and find some peace in the wilderness. Northern Michigan's forests were the perfect place for him to clear his mind. After a difficult breakup, he had hiked in these woods before, but this time, something felt different. The night was still and quiet when Alex set up camp. His tent was nestled beneath a canopy of trees, the only sound the rustling of leaves in the breeze. He made a fire and settled in for the night, looking forward to the solitude. But as he lay there staring up at the stars, something caught his attention. A sound unmistakable and chilling. A high-pitched cry like nothing he'd ever heard before. It sent a chill down his spine, making his blood run cold. At first, he thought it was just an animal, maybe a coyote or some other creature of the night. But the sound was too unnatural, too eerie. Alex grabbed his flashlight, his hands trembling as he unzipped the tent and stepped into the darkness. He scanned the woods, his flashlight cutting through the trees, but saw nothing. The cry echoed again, this time much closer, and Alex's heart pounded in his chest. "Hello?" He called his voice, barely a whisper, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the woods. No response. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end as the cry came. Again, followed by the sound of something moving through the trees. Whatever it wasn't an animal. Alex knew this deep in his gut. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his feet felt like they were glued to the ground. The woods around him seemed to close in the trees, pressing in from all sides. He turned quickly, scanning the dark, but all he could see were shadows. The cry came again louder this time, almost as if it were right behind him. What was out there? He couldn't stay here. The air felt thick with something unnatural. His heart raced as he grabbed his backpack, running blindly into the woods, his mind racing with fear and adrenaline. What was hunting him? And why did it feel so familiar? As if this was something he had always known was lurking in the dark corners of his mind. He didn't know the answer, but he could feel the danger closing in. The night was far from over. The road stretched out before me like an endless ribbon of asphalt, bathed in the cold glow of my headlights. The air was thick with the weight of the night, and the only sound was the hum of my car engine. The digital clock on the dashboard read 2:17 a.m. My eyes were heavy from the long drive, and my mind wandered back to my grandmother, whose illness had brought me to visit 3 states over. It had been a tough day, and all I wanted now was to get home and sleep. But something felt off. At first I dismissed it as exhaustion, but then I noticed the headlights behind me. I hadn't paid much attention at first, maybe just another car traveling the same stretch of road, but as the miles passed, I realized they were still there following me. A knot formed in my stomach and my grip on the steering wheel tightened. I checked my rearview mirror, but all I could see was the faint glow of headlights, steady and unwavering. The car behind me wasn't overtaking me, but it wasn't falling back either. It was just there. A shiver ran down my spine, and I pressed the accelerator, watching the speedometer climb 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. The car behind me kept pace effortlessly. My pulse quickened, my heart pounding in my chest, matching the rhythm of the engine. It was too consistent, too deliberate. I glanced nervously at my phone, hoping to dial the police, but of course no signal. My stomach churned. I had no way of contacting anyone, and here I was, stuck on a lonely country road with someone or something tailing me. The road felt endless, surrounded by nothing but trees and the fields. No houses, no signs of life. Just me, the car, and the oppressive dark. I pushed the pedal further, but the car behind me stayed right there, never once pulling away. Then a sign appeared in the distance gas station, 2 miles. I let out a breath of relief. Civilization. A place to stop, to finally get away from the eerie presence behind me. I just had to make it there. The next 2 miles seemed like an eternity each second, stretching out, amplifying my dread. My hands were clammy, my chest tight. My only focus was the sign ahead. When the gas station finally came into view, I pulled in sharply, the tires squealing on the worn concrete. My heart was pounding so loudly in my ears I could barely hear anything else. I didn't care if the car behind me saw me pull in. I just needed to get out of there. But to my surprise, the car didn't follow. Instead, it slowed as it passed the entrance, and as it did, I finally got a good look at it. It was old, probably from the 70s. The black paint was now a dull grey, weathered by time. As it crawled past, I caught a glimpse of the driver, a man. His face was hidden in shadow, and the car continued down the road, disappearing into the night. A cold chill ran down my spine. What had I just seen? My breath hitched as I stood frozen for a moment. Had it all been in my head? I shook the thought away. No, that car had been following me, and something was wrong. I walked into the gas station, trying to steady my nerves. The bell above the door jingled as I entered, and the old man behind the counter looked up startled by the sound. He rubbed his eyes, trying to wake himself up, then glanced at me. "You all right, miss?" He asked, his voice heavy with sleep. I managed a weak smile, but my voice trembled. "I'm fine. There was a car following me for a while. Got me a little spooked." The old man's expression shifted in an instant. He looked at me more intently now, his tired eyes narrowing with concern. "What kind of car?" he asked, his voice suddenly serious. "Old? Black, maybe dark grey?" I replied, my heart still racing from the encounter. The old man's face grew even graver. He leaned in slightly, his voice lowering as if he were about to share something he wasn't supposed to. "You need to be careful, miss. We've had incidents here before. People disappearing after a car like that's followed them." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean, incidents?" The man sighed deeply, looking around as if to ensure no one else was listening. "People report seeing a car just like that one. They get followed, some make it to town, but others, they're never seen again." I felt the blood drain from my face. My heart pounded in my chest as fear surged within me. "Have you called the police?" He chuckled bitterly. "The police. They've investigated, but they've never found anything. Some folks say it's just stories to scare the kids. But I've been here a long time. I've seen things, heard things." I glanced anxiously out the window, half expecting to see the headlights again, but the road outside was empty. What should I do? I whispered, my voice trembling. "I just want to get home." The old man's expression softened. "Stay here if you can. If you can't, drive as fast as you can to the nearest town. Don't try to lose it on these back roads. That's where people tend to disappear." I nodded slowly, the weight of his words sinking in. He continued, his voice a bit gentler. "Stay safe, miss. And remember what I told you." I thanked him quietly, and took a seat at the counter, trying to calm my nerves. The minutes seemed to drag on forever. I couldn't stop glancing out the window, looking for any sign of that ominous car. What was going on? What had I gotten myself into? It was supposed to be a quiet, solo camping trip, a chance to clear my mind and escape the stress of the world. After a difficult breakup and a rough period in my life, I needed to find some peace. So I headed to the remote wilderness of northern Michigan, an area I'd hiked before. The solitude was exactly what I needed. I set up camp beneath the dense canopy of trees, the sun sinking lower as dusk settled over the forest. The only sound was the wind rustling the leaves and the occasional bird call. It was peaceful, serene, a perfect night to disconnect. As night fell, I lit a fire and settled in, by the warmth of the flames, roasting marshmallows and reflecting on the past. But just as I was starting to relax, I heard it. A high-pitched, spine-chilling cry echoed through the woods. At first, I thought it was just an animal, maybe a coyote or something similar, but the sound, it was different, unnatural. It sent a shiver down my spine and made my heart race in my chest. I glanced around my flashlight, illuminating only shadows. Another cry rang out closer this time, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It wasn't any animal I had ever heard before. I grabbed my flashlight, my hands trembling, and unzipped my tent. I stepped out, scanning the trees, trying to locate the source of the sound. But there was nothing, just the dark, silent woods stretching out before me. The cry came again, louder, sending a rush of adrenaline through my veins. I called out, "Hello, is someone out there?" My voice barely broke the silence, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the forest. No response, just the eerie sound that seemed to surround me. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I stood frozen, my feet unwilling to move. The cry came again, even closer this time, and I felt a cold, unnerving presence in the air around me. The woods felt alive, but not in a natural way. Something was there, something I couldn't see, but I could feel it, watching me. I grabbed my backpack and started running, my heart hammering in my chest. Every step felt heavier, and the cry echoed behind me, louder than before. I couldn't outrun it. I didn't know what was chasing me, but I knew I couldn't stay out there alone in the dark any longer. I bolted through the trees, every crack of a branch underfoot, sending me into a blind panic. The forest seemed to stretch on forever, an endless maze of shadows. What was out there? What kind of creature made such a sound I didn't know, but I could feel its presence closing in. My heart pounded in my chest as I stumbled through the thick underbrush, the weight of the forest closing in around me. I could feel it. Something was following, something that shouldn't be in these woods, its presence suffocating, palpable. I didn't know how much longer I could keep running, but I couldn't stop. The cry came again, closer, this time sending an icy chill through my veins. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to keep moving, to escape whatever was hunting me in the darkness. I heard branches crack behind me, and I knew it was close. The light from my flashlight flickered and died. Panic surged within me, and I fumbled for the spare batteries in my backpack. My hands shook uncontrollably, but I couldn't afford to waste any time. I heard it again, closer now, closer than ever. A low growl, a terrifying noise that made my blood run cold. And then the air shifted, the temperature dropping dramatically, as if something monstrous was breathing down my neck. I spun around, flashlight now working again, its beam slicing through the darkness. My pulse was racing, but I couldn't bring myself to look. I knew something was behind me, and I didn't want to see it. But curiosity pulled me in, and as I turned slowly, my breath caught in my throat. There in the shadows, I saw it. A figure, tall, thin, with elongated limbs and a twisted, unnatural form that seemed to slither in and out of the darkness. Its eyes gleamed a bright, glowing red, like embers from a dying fire. The thing's head tilted to one side as it studied me, its breath a low hiss. For a moment, everything stood still. My feet were rooted to the ground, my body paralyzed with fear. I knew this was it. This was the thing I had been running from, and it was right in front of me. I could see its mouth wide and grotesque, full of sharp, jagged teeth. It stepped forward, its movements jerky and unnatural, each step sending a sickening crack through the underbrush. I should have screamed, I should have run, but my body refused to obey. I was frozen, my eyes locked on the creature's. The thing took another step toward me, and for the first time, I realized the depth of its hunger, the need that drove it. It wasn't just after me, it was after something else, something that I couldn't comprehend, something that felt far worse than simple survival. I backed away slowly, my eyes never leaving its face, and then I turned and ran again, my legs moving faster than they ever had before. The sound of its footsteps behind me grew louder. I could hear it getting closer, the air thick with its breath. I had to get away. I had to escape. There was no choice. The woods had never felt so alive with danger, and every crack of a branch, every rustling of leaves was a reminder of the nightmare I was living. I ran until my legs felt like they might give out beneath me, until my chest burned with exhaustion. But I couldn't stop. The thing was still behind me, always there, its hunger echoing in the air around me. Just as I thought I might collapse, the edge of the forest appeared before me. Light. I was so close to the road. I didn't know how I managed to get there, but the moment I saw the clearing, I knew that if I could make it through, I'd be safe. I pushed forward, bursting through the last of the brush and into the open. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The creature was still there somewhere in the dark, but the light ahead was my salvation. My legs gave out as I reached the edge of the road, and I collapsed onto the pavement. I lay there for a moment, my body trembling, from both exhaustion and fear. The weight of what I had just escaped pressing down on me. I heard the faint growl again, coming from the woods behind me, and I realized that I had just crossed into the light, into the safety of the world I knew. But what had been chasing me, what had stalked me through the night, was still out there, and it wasn't finished. Not yet. I didn't know how I survived. I didn't know why the thing stopped chasing me or why I made it out alive. All I knew was that I was no longer in that forest, no longer facing the thing that had hunted me down. But as I sat there, catching my breath and staring into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching me. The world around me was quiet again, but I knew better. I knew that whatever had followed me, whatever had been hunting me in the woods, was still out there, and someday it would find me again. The question was, what would happen when it did? The events of that night changed me. I thought I was safe, that I had escaped, but I never felt truly safe again. The thing I encountered in those woods, the creature with glowing eyes and an insatiable hunger, left a mark on me that I can never erase. It's out there somewhere, watching, waiting. And I know now without a doubt that there are things in this world, things beyond our understanding, that lurk in the dark. Things that are not bound by the rules of nature or time. Things that can never be explained, only survived. As the years have gone by, I've never been able to forget that night. Every so often, I'll find myself glancing over my shoulder, wondering if those eyes are still following me. What I experienced that night, in the depth of the wilderness, has haunted me every day since. And I know this, no matter how far I run, no matter how many miles I put between myself and the woods, I'll never be free of it. Because once you've come face to face with something like that, there's no going back.